like a little more in depth when we get to it. But
I know this one's probably like a teaser episode, which is totally fine, and it's actually a good thing.
all right, I'm gonna hit the intro. Let's get it going.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Alrighty, welcome back. Jake and Tyler. Simon may or may not be joining us at some point. He, duty calls, and when the military calls, you just kind of let it go. But we do have notes from Bryant. Bryant is also busy, but Jake and I are here for sure. So we're going to talk about the Packers' new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley. If you are interested, I was able to talk to one of his players from last season. I talked to Elijah Jones yesterday at the Senior Bowl after practice. Got a couple nuggets from him about Hafley. So we're gonna get more in depth. We're gonna give some observations, some expectations, and then some changes that we hope to see. So we have that for all of us. Jake, what's up? How you want to get it started?
Good, man. Good. I'm glad you're doing well. You sound like you're still enjoying your time down there in Alabama. Just want to give a disclaimer to the people right now. There's a lot of things that are going to change over the next couple of months with this Packers team, defensive-wise, scheme-wise. Gunakus, we're going to get into more of his presser a little bit later as well. But, he was talking during the presser, talking about, he wants to shore up the back end, right? So that's something that we're not going to be able to forecast right now. He does like the front seven though. So we're gonna get into it. Do you want to start with the DT, or do you want to start with the players?
Let's do players first, and then actually if you want to talk about Goody's press conference, we can do that first. So if you want to start with that, let's start with that, and then we'll the main focus for this show is going to be the DC. So if there's any other things you want to put out there, let's do that first.
Okay. So you want me just to talk about things that I liked from the press conference?
Things that stood out, things you liked, however you want to do it, man.
Well, first and foremost, we've been talking about it. You were the first one on the show to put out a figure what you thought Jordan Love was going to get. And there's going to be people that are going to complain about it. And it is what it is. I'm going to tell you right now, this is the world that we live in. Mm-hmm. Quarterbacks, when you're elite, and he's 25 years old, and he had moments where he looked elite. He had moments where he looked like a first-year starter. You, as a GM and as a franchise, you have to lean and think positive. So all this negativity that is clouding your brain, you can't have that as a GM. They saw Jordan Love be elite. They saw him go out in Dallas and absolutely tear up a top 5 defense in the NFL. You saw him win games down the stretch to win and get into the playoffs. So as a GM, you have to pay him. He's going to get paid at least $40 million. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yep, and this is the thing with it too is his agent is going to tell you the exact same thing.
Yeah,
sports agents are going to get their clients paid for what their ceiling is, not for what their potential is, not for what their what their performance is, not for what their floor is. They're going to be paid for their ceiling.
And he has the same agent as Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes from New York, and I think Jordan Love's a little bit better than Danny Dimes.
I think Justin Fields has the same agent, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Who's that?
I think Justin Fields has the same agent as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, he might. I think that was one of the part of their connection that they had week 1 when they were talking. So that makes sense. Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do this offseason, that agent specifically. Mm-hmm. So then the next thing that I really like is him talking about Aaron Jones coming back. He said, "Hey, yeah, absolutely." And if you're a Packers fan, if you're an NFL fan, that should just make you feel good. I'm really, really hoping that Aaron Jones wins the what was the award? I don't want to say the wrong official award. He's going to get honored at NFL Honors this weekend. But he's up for an award for community service, basically. There's 3 people that are up for it. So I'm really going to be cheering for him to win that award. Then there was a couple other things. Really, I was focusing on the defense because that's going to be the big thing this offseason. Obviously, what's up, Barry? How you doing, buddy? We focused a lot on offense this year specifically. Obviously, we watched both sides of the ball. But offense was really the key that we were focusing on. New quarterback, all these young guys, right? That was the talk. How is the offensive line going to hold up? Bach went down week 1. And I think the offense is going to be fine. And he talked in the presser that he thinks he has more flexibility in free agent than in free agency than he's had in years past. So
Mm-hmm.
when he was talking about the draft picks and maybe trading for a veteran player, immediately, and then you use context clues with him talking about the back end of the defense. Immediately, everybody's brain goes to safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's exactly where we struggled. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if we went and got a corner. If he likes a guy and he's like, this guy's available, this guy could play in our system. We'll have Jair on one side, we'll put player A on the other side. Like, he's gonna go get that guy. That's the way that it sounds to me. And then if they're okay bringing Darnell Savage back on a cheap deal and maybe drafting a guy, Newbin's a very popular name for a lot of Packers fans right now, but out of Minnesota, so that would be interesting. It'll be awesome to see what he does in free agency. We haven't had this flexibility in a long time, and the Super Bowl window, as he is referenced, as LaFleur is referenced, is open right now. So we are open for shop. And if you watched NFL recently in the last 10 years, now is the time. Strike it now. So, floor is yours, buddy.
So when you're talking about Goody, I posted a whole list of takeaways that I had from his press conference yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
As far as retention of players, he immediately shut down any trade talks to Jair, which we've been saying for months.
Yep.
He was actually said he was proud of the way that Jair responded to his discipline. And Matt LaFleur has said the same things. Jair has said the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the two guys that I want to bring up are Aaron Jones and David Bakhtiari.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the two things with these guys is, A, if they're back, they're going to be restructured. That's bottom line. Goody said they're already working on figures for Aaron Jones, and they're going to wait until David Bakhtiari is done with his recovery to find out what they're going to do with him. Now, if they decide to bring him back and restructure him, and same goes with Aaron Jones, if they want to restructure their deals that give them like massive incentives for games played where they can earn up to, what their current contracts are based on games played and statistics and things like that and depth of the playoff run, 1,000% on board with that. This team is better with those two when they are healthy. Any team in the NFL would be better with those two on their team if they are healthy.
That's no discussion needs to be had after that. 100%.
You mentioned the free agency, and then Gutekunst, like you said, with the 5 picks in the first 2 days of the draft, he said it gives them flexibility. He listed 3 different potential options with that. They can draft all 5 guys. Mm-hmm. They could trade up, or they could trade for a veteran, like you said. So there's three things there that they can do. Barry said he's done with football realistically, according to his health standpoint. I don't think that's the case. He's in his early 30s. I don't think it's a case that he's done with football.
And, he keeps fighting to get back on the field. You saw the photo late in the year when he was with the guys and they were all sitting on looked like a table or something that holds equipment. And they're all just laughing, having good times. He loves being one of the guys. He loves competing. He's ultra competitive. He played D1 football. He's played in the NFL at the highest level. You don't just give that up if you feel like you got more to give. So Bakhtiari, if healthy, and I don't care what anybody says, you could take your numbers and shove them up your ass. He's one of the top 3 left tackles in the league when healthy. So if you're telling me that you don't want that to protect a quarterback that you're about to hand $40 million a year to, you're drunk.
And there would be a line of teams interested in bringing him in. The Jets would be instantly the number 1.
Yeah, they would.
Instantly number 1. But like I said, any team in the NFL, as far as Bakhtiari and Aaron Jones are concerned, any team in the NFL would be better having those 2 on their roster if they're healthy.
100%.
So, like I said, I'm totally fine giving them, incentive deals that could make them highest paid among their positions if they're healthy for the entire season and the Packers make a playoff run. Barry said the Packers should hire him on the coaching staff if he can't play. I'm not even going to entertain that because I still want him as a left tackle. I
agree.
Okay. Now, as we get into talking about the defensive coordinator, you're looking at the free agents. Just off the list, are there any guys specifically that you see on that list that you would be interested in trying to retain based on this new defensive coordinator hire?
So here's the thing. I'm gonna go by position, and we're gonna go through this. So Keyshawn Nixon, I'm gonna tell you, I would be interested to see him in this new system. It would be interesting to see if Hafley can unlock a new level with Nixon. Plus, I do like him on special teams. Maybe he had some questionable decision making at times, but he still is electric when he has the ball in his hands. You still have to worry about it, right? Robert Rochelle, not really.
Let me interject on Nixon real quick. I'm going to be honest with you. I am fine with it either way.
Yeah, me too. I'm not going to be heartbroken.
Good. If they let him go, it's okay. We'll have guys that can fill those roles.
I agree. Jonathan Ford is interesting. He is interesting. He played really, really well, but he was injured for a lot of the year, it felt like, too. So for that being the case, I would say no, because you have all these draft picks. You could probably draft a rookie that's close to Jonathan Ford.
If I'm being honest, I would be interested in maybe doing something like a futures deal.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. Just because, as we'll talk about with Hafley, the Packers are probably going to go to 4 down linemen.
They are. They're going to play a lot of 4 down. He has some 3-man fronts from what I've been reading, and is
right.
About him. He has some stuff up his sleeve, man. This guy is extremely smart. Never mind. I'm not going to get into it.
Free agents first. Free agents first.
You started peeling back, and I was like, now I want to talk about it. So the next guy that I'm going to talk about is Darnell Savage. And for me, I say a 1-year deal under the new coaching regime. I think, because LaFleur told all the defensive coaches they could pursue other opportunities. They're basically cleaning house and starting from scratch. So LaFleur saying, okay, offense, I got this. I'm going to hire a guy that I know is smart enough and is an alpha male in the room, can control the room, can be a leader. He can control that. That's what he wants. So being a leader of men is a tough thing for some people, but obviously Coach Hafley being a head coach for Boston College since 2020, he could be a leader of men, right?
You bring up staff. He's a guy who's done hiring and firing, so he can be part of that.
Right.
So you can tell, Matt LaFleur can tell Goody, like, hey, you and Hafley figure out the defensive staff, and I'm gonna help take this offense to even the next level.
Yeah, that's actually insane. So I would say 100% yes. Bring him back, especially the last couple of weeks. He was really, really balling.
I'm like 75-25 on Savage back.
That's fair. I'm okay with that. You want to?
Yeah, I'll read Michael's comment. Okay. Michael said, if Bakhtiari comes back, I'll be shocked, but I love your incentive-laden idea. Jones will be back. We hope we can extend another year, maybe 2. Need to draft a solid number 2 to compete with Wilson, either Benson, Shipley, or Marshall dude. Our offense didn't go when Jones wasn't available as it did without him. And we're going to cover running backs in this year's draft as a position of need. When we do our free agency episode, A.J. Dillon will absolutely be a part of that, and we'll have discussions, possibly tough discussions about A.J. Dillon, but we've been pretty forthcoming with our thoughts that the Packers could move on from A.J. Dillon. And we'll cover running backs in our draft prep, and I actually talked to the Marshall dude that you brought up, Rasheen Ali. He looked fantastic, and then unfortunately he tore a muscle in his bicep, but he is expected to be ready for the season. It's just a bummer that he won't be able to do the combine or probably a good chunk of training camp, which is a bummer because, like I said, he looked great. He looked great on day one of practice, so I hope he can get back.
He could be a late round guy now.
Yeah. Dylan Lowey from New Hampshire is also a guy who looked pretty good as a potential dual threat and was taking punt return reps. So definitely going to have an eye on him when I start getting into running backs. But, running back is definitely going to be on the position of need list.
100%. So the last guy I want to bring up, really the last guy that's kind of an impact guy in this, is Jonathan Owens. And he's interesting because I thought he played really, really good when he got closer to the line of scrimmage. And the more I was reading and the more I was watching on Hafley, he likes to play a Viper linebacker. That's basically, like the new age, they turn a safety into a linebacker. And I think that Owens could fill that role. I'm not going to lie. I think he's smart enough. I think he understands run concepts. And I think that he would be a really, really good guy to be a Viper linebacker. He could cover. He could defend the run. You could blitz him. I think he'd be interesting. I don't know if I bring him back, though. He'd probably be pretty cheap, to be honest with you.
And that's the fair part, that he would probably be cheap. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say Savage or Owens. I'm going to say one or the other.
That's fair.
Because they're going to add to the safety room. and it's going to be either an early draft pick that they're going to put on the field, or it's going to be a free agent or trade for a veteran that is going to be a higher profile than Jonathan Owens.
Yeah, they're gonna want an established veteran back there for sure.
Right. Or a high pedigree rookie.
Yeah, agreed.
And let me throw this out there on safeties is while we're talking about guys who can potentially, come into the box. I'm actually really, really interested to see if they could maybe use Anthony Johnson Jr. in a role like that.
Ooh.
Because we saw him smack some tight ends during this season and lay the wood a little bit. So having a guy who can kind of do that hybrid, Anthony Johnson Jr. could be a guy that when Hafley gets his hands on him, could potentially be in line for a really big jump in development.
That's interesting. I didn't even consider that. That's interesting. I think Anthony Johnson Jr., that guy, if there's one thing he likes to do, he likes hitting people, and that's great. That is a great thing.
All right. You wanna get into some observations here? I can. I'll pull up Bryant's and I'll read his off.
Go ahead.
So I'll start with Bryant's. His observation. Let's do observations first. Bryant's observation number 1: he is essentially the opposite of Joe Barry. Aggressive, press coverage, clog the middle of the field. And this goes true to what I said about when I talked to Elijah Jones yesterday at the Senior Bowl. He said he is aggressive. You don't want to let things come to you and react. So that's exactly what Elijah Jones said yesterday. So I agree with Bryant on observation number 1. Observation number 2 Bryant has is he has a lot of experience working with some prominent defensive coordinators. He has worked with Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan, Aaron Glenn, and Bobby Babich, who the Packers also interviewed for the DC position, were assistants under Hafley. They are now both defensive coordinators in the NFL. And his third observation is he turned around the Ohio State defense in 1 year before going to Boston College. He will put the players in the best positions to succeed.
I like that. All
right. What do you got for observations?
All right. So number 1, and this is the most important thing, especially when you're trying to set a tone, right? And the thing that I love the most about Jeff Hafley is his energy. That guy, oh man, it's like when we talk about Fick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coach Fick could get me to convince me I could run through a brick wall. Physically, it is impossible, but that man could put it in my head that I could do it. And that's just the kind of leader that I think that we're getting on the defensive side of the ball here with Jeff. Just an absolute dog. He's a dog, dude. I watched some of him being mic'd up when he was the DC for Ohio State on Big Ten Network. Did you see that as well?
I saw it as well, yep.
And he was vital to their turnaround because that Ohio State team the year before was ranked in the 70s in a lot of major categories, and he got them ranked in the top 3 in most of them.
You want to know the quote that I pulled from that when he was mic'd up?
What's that?
He's telling his guys, take the field with an attitude, let them know what's coming all day long.
Yep. And
fly around, play with energy, play with confidence.
Dude, oh my God. You want to talk about, and I know that there was reports out there that the Packers offered Orr the job, right?
Yeah.
But
also
to
now
me,
DC.
This almost feels like a perfect second option. I don't know how to phrase it. But
you know what? I don't even know that it's a second option. I mean, it's possible that they knew, that Orr told them he was going to take the defensive coordinator job, but the Packers hired Hafley before the Ravens promoted Orr.
That's fair.
Michael said prior to the hire, I knew nothing about Hafley. I'm 100% behind the decision now, just knowing we will be more aggressive and dictate our will onto the offense instead of taking punches and bend and don't break of Barry's defense. And I understand the logic of the bend don't break thing. We've talked about it during the season. One other thing that I got from a post-game interview from Jeff Hafley was he said defensive football is about lining up, having your eyes in the right place, running as hard and as fast as you can, and tackling.
Oh, dude. I was going to bring that up, but I knew you were going to already.
All right. I'll let you get back to your observations.
Because I sent you a picture, did I not?
Oh, my God. A guy that has emphasis on tackling is like, yep, I'm on board. I'm with you.
Bro, he has an emphasis on playing with confidence and running around and playing with an attitude. What are all the things that we've been talking about this season with the defense? And you could tell the difference when that team was playing with confidence. Look at the Lions game at Thanksgiving. Look at the game against the Chiefs. Okay? Those are two games where they were running around and they were dictating the pace of that game.
I'll say this too. Let me say the Vikings and the Bears game leading into the Cowboys game.
Yeah, that team was playing at such a high level. It was insane.
Yep.
So I love his energy. I think his energy is going to be infectious, and I think it's going to set a tone for this defense. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want, if I'm an offense, I don't want Rashawn Gary and Jair Alexander playing with confidence because they're all pro type players.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw Kenny Clark in there as well if you really want to. I mean, there's a couple guys that I think are fringe potential, Quay Walker, LVN, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yep.
So the next thing that I like is I really, really love the four-man fronts because I was doing a lot of research on this. And he likes to play two tight ends, one defensive tackle, one nose tackle.
Can I toot my own horn real quick?
What's up?
Did I not bring up way like in the middle of the season, potentially going back to a four-man front?
You did. You said you wanted to play a 4-3. And I was a little worried about it, but after doing some research and reading some more things, I'm okay with it. I like it.
I just had to pat myself on the back.
I'd pat you on the back, but you're all the way in Alabama. He likes to play his D ends in 5 techniques. So that's just outside the shoulders of the tackles. So you still have outside containing. You can still control the C gaps. And then he likes to play his D tackle in 3 techs. That's the tight end side. So if you're in a 12 personnel and the tight end's on the right, that means the D tackle is playing a 3 tech. That is in between the tackle and the guard, right? And then he likes to play his nose tackle in 1 tech. That's between the center and the guard on the weak side. So now you have all those gaps covered. The middle linebacker's taking the other A gap. And then you have a Sam and a Will linebacker. And, man, if you want to talk about a team that's spending first-round picks on defense and they got talent, they got guys that can run with anybody, it's the Packers. This was a very attractive job to a lot of defensive coordinators. So I think the four-man front's going to do wonders if they can figure out the safety position, which obviously Goot is going to put a lot of hours in.
Right.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about is a quote from Richard Sherman, who Packers fans were not really a fan of, immediately after our loss. But in a 4-3, where would Gary and Preston line up? I sure see LVN as an end. Would Gary and Preston be ends or linebackers? Let me tell you something real quick. Gary and LVN have experience lining up inside. I would absolutely not be shocked if there is a lineup where LVN is in at D tackle and Gary is next to him, and next to him on the other side is Kenny Clark, because that is filthy. That is filthy.
Let me throw this out there. You have to go all the way back to after the 2020 season when me, you, and Josh talked about free agents.
My God.
And we were talking about defensive ends, and I put Preston Smith in my list as a defensive end.
Yeah.
So I think Preston Smith is a guy who could be hybrid as well.
And I think that he's going to come out with some 5-man fronts because we have the ability to have a 5-man front with Gary and Preston with their hand on the ground and maybe having Gary stand up or Preston stand up. And you can do different looks with this kind of stuff, right? We have that versatility. Which is
Goody said the word versatility like 6 times yesterday in his press conference.
I know. And versatility is such a buzzword now in sports, but you have to be versatile. And that's what makes this era of sports so great is in basketball, you have to be a two-way player, right? In baseball, they talk about being a 5-tool player and playing multiple positions on defense. In football, if you're a guy who rushes the passer, you have to be able to do it with your hand in the ground, standing up. You have to protect outside. You have to defend the run. You have to pressure the quarterback. You have to be able to drop back in zone coverage. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with a 4-man front that we haven't seen since 2009, right? So we're about to get back into it, and it's going to be great. Yep. So real quick, I just wanted to talk about something that Richard Sherman said when he was asked about Hafley. And 2 things that really, really stuck out to me. 1, he said that Hafley is a great fit with the Packers. And 2, sorry, go on with your Sherman quote. He loved playing for Hafley. Yes, thank you. And he did. He was touching on that. He was talking about how he loved playing with him because he said, I think Haf is a great coach that focuses on details. Always has a great plan and adjustments. And adjustments. When when I tell you that I almost cried when he said "and adjustments," I was like, oh, thank you. Because if these guys are running the ball on us and we adjust to take away the run, I'm going to be very happy in the second quarter.
You're going to love the change that I
quarter.
bring up when we get the changes. You're going to love it.
Oh, my gosh. I was so happy when he said "and adjustments." Because you can have a great scheme. Barry had good schemes sometimes.
Yep.
And we had good moments. And Goot said that as well. Goot said we had good moments.
Yep.
We did have good moments. But we didn't adjust. And that was kind of the thing that people were going at LaFleur for. And people were going at Barry for not adjusting. You know, and that is going to be such a major like culture change for this defense, is being like, all right, guys, I know I told you that we're going to defend the outside zone. They're not running the outside zone. They're killing us on the inside. We're going to focus on these A gaps and B gaps, and that's what we're going to take away from now on. Boom, that's an adjustment. I literally almost cried, dude. I have
tons of quotes for you. You're going to love them.
I'm ready. But yeah, you go ahead and your observations. That's what I got, buddy.
All right. So Coach Hafley was on a show called Next Up with Adam Brenneman. And it was an hour long. I watched the entire 1 hour thing, and I have quotes written down, things that he said. When it comes to, this was actually about where he was at BC. His quote said, I just want to coach football. So he wanted to take a more active role at Boston College in the defense and in the defensive backs. To me, and this goes to his NFL experience, which Jake can bring up, is that defense is where his heart is.
Yep.
He brought up many, many times he values high character players, and obviously it goes a little bit more with college, emphasizing guys that fit in on campus as well as in the locker room. And then he said, everything we do, we talk about being for the team. I want smart guys who are tough and reliable. He put a huge, I underlined this 3 times, huge emphasis on preparation during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, to be prepared for Saturdays. So to me, that preparation part of it is going to be huge. And it kind of shows in that Richard Sherman quote that you brought up that he's going to have guys ready to play versus different teams because of what he does during the week, because they've seen it during the week. So he worked with Robert Saleh. He worked with D'Amico Ryans. He worked with Mike McDaniel. He worked with Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings. He worked with Kyle Shanahan. He worked with Ryan Day in San Francisco and then followed him to Ohio State. The thing that he took away from those guys was work ethics. He said, grind, study, be demanding, have great relationships with your players, hold people accountable, and not be afraid of confrontation.
Those are all good things. Those are all good qualities. I would not disagree with anything he said there.
All right, here we go. You're going to love this. When talking about defense, his quote, I have a pretty solid core of what I believe in, but I also think you need to continue to adapt and to grow. Even at Boston College, he would watch NFL film to keep up with trends of what NFL defenses were doing.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Is it September?
So he runs a system that has a lot of single high safety and 4 down linemen. That helps keep an extra guy in the box to help stop the quarterback run game. So as soon as I heard that, I'm like, that could have made a huge difference in the Giants game.
Yeah.
Tommy DeVito was not, he's not a run first quarterback, but he was able to run. That's what he brought up. Third downs, crucial situations, the quarterbacks in the NFL, when they don't have things, they're going to run. Yep. Even if they're not run first guys.
Yep.
So that to me is something that stood out, especially if we get to a point with whatever the Bears do at quarterback, whether they keep Fields or draft Caleb Williams, those guys are going to be athletic. Yep. If the Lions eventually go from Jared Goff to Hendon Hooker, he is athletic.
Yep.
Whatever the hell the Vikings end up doing, it is what it is. If it ends up being Kirk Cousins, you're still looking at 2 of your 3 division opponents having mobile, athletic quarterbacks in the next 2 or 3 years.
I heard they're in on Jaden Daniels, man. I heard they're trying to go get him.
That would be interesting, actually.
That would be a filthy combo with
Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson.
And Hawkinson, yeah.
Michael said Jake hit on a very important factor. Defensive culture change is something that's been needed for a long time. And that could be why they brought in a guy that's younger, bring in, a different philosophy. So with this, you kind of mentioned it already, talking about versatility. I think personally this could be a home run hire for the development of Lucas Van Ness, because he's got that versatility, which we talked about when the Packers drafted him, to stand up and rush as an outside linebacker or put his hand in the ground and rush as a defensive end. Now going to a potential 4-3 with some three-man fronts mixed in, dude, LVN could absolutely flourish under Hafley.
Dude, this hire was like literally almost made for him. Seriously.
I strongly agree with you. This seriously, when I say this, like the versatility that Lucas Van Ness possesses in a system like Hafley's where he can be used in versatile ways, seriously, he could be just massive impact next year. So I have that. And then he actually said that he knew at Boston College he'd have to be able to develop underrated guys because he wasn't always going to get, the 5-star recruits or be the biggest in the transfer portal, have the most money to offer, NIL, all of that. So he knew he would have to be able to take guys who, might be 2-3 stars and be able to develop them and then keep them from going to the bigger schools. So development of younger players is something I think Hafley will be good with. And if Goody decides to keep all 5 of his picks in the first 2 days and spend some of them on defense, I'm totally okay with that if the Packers don't use them to trade up or use them to trade for a veteran, because I think Hafley can be a developmental coach. And all of his college experience as well, being a guy who's done college and NFL, I think he'll be able to seamlessly fit into those relationships with those guys and be able to just continue, the relationships of relating to players coming out of college and into the NFL.
Yeah, I think the experience in both is definitely going to benefit him. So I agree with that as
well. Then he talked about adversity. Now, this absolutely applies to fans as well as it applies to football players and coaches.
So listen up.
You find out about yourself. You find out about your coaches. You find out about your team. You find out who the real guys are. Pointing fingers is easy. Changing coaches in the middle of the year, stepping in and taking over things, switching positions is easy. That covers all of the bases of when things aren't going ideally.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave that alone for right now.
I think it stands on its own. I really do.
Yep.
I mean, I can clip it. I can let people listen to it again. And if it applies to you or makes you think about you, great. And I think everybody should take a kind of a thought about that when it comes to adversity, not just for sports, not just for the Packers, not just for the Bucks or the Brewers or the Badgers, whatever it may be, anything, life in general as well, apply it.
I agree.
All right. You ready to talk some expectations?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to start with Bryant's again. Bryant's expectations, number 1, versatile. That's his first one that he's got. Perfect. We've spent a lot of time talking about versatility already. He will use schemes based on the opponent and make adjustments in the game. Number 2, I expect a lot more aggression. Barry would get beat by 1,000 cuts. This defense will not be like that. Hafley likes to clog the middle of the field and play single high safety. To beat this defense, you will have to hit your shots and beat us outside the numbers. Very excited to see Quay Walker in this defense.
Okay. So, are you sure you weren't reading off my paper?
Michael said Jake made another solid point. Not that I want to skip the rest of basketball or baseball season, but could September hurry up and get here?
Oh man,
honestly, I'm going to be excited to see like what kind of sound bites and things we get from practices in July and August.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm not trying to skip the Bucks either. I don't care if they're in a rough patch. I trust that talent. Badgers are still elite. I know that it's still hurts a little bit after last night, but this team's still one of the better teams, and they're still leading the Big Ten. So, definitely don't want to just skip forward. But everybody that knows me knows I love my Green Bay Packers, man. But the first thing that I'm going to expect, things I expect, is aggression. And Tyler, after 3 years, how many rants have I went on about our defense playing soft as baby shit, dude?
Or not having attitude.
Oh my God.
You like your attitude, guys. I know you do. That's why you like TJ. That's why you like Jair.
Bro, and a lot of people, this, take it for what you want, people. I like players that talk shit, okay? Because that person goes on the field and they're going on the field for a purpose. Now, when Jair goes on the field and he's raising his hands up and he's saying he's locking you down and he says it's a sword, I don't know what's going on anymore. But I like that because he's going on the field and he is manifesting what he wants. Okay? So I've always been that way in my life too. Man, I don't care what I'm doing. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay? That's how it works. I was so sick and tired of watching this defense, and it wasn't just Joe Barry. Okay? And I want people to get out of that mindset. It's not just Joe Barry.
Mm-hmm.
We were pretty bad under Pettin at times too. We were pretty bad under Dom Capers at times too.
Mm-hmm.
So this team is going to play with an attitude, and they're going to play with an edge. And, man, we've talked about it 1,000,001 times. We used to love watching the Badgers because they play defense. And you brought up something that Hafley said where he said his heart is on defense. So is mine. I love defense. I love defense more than anything in this entire world. I love watching the Bucks play good defense. I love watching the Badgers basketball, Badgers football. Defense is what I love. Now, offense is beautiful. Man. Offense is beautiful, man. I will not deny that. An Aaron Rodgers pass, 45 yards on the field to hit somebody in stride. Jordan Love throwing a sidearm, that's beautiful. Giannis doing a Euro step or a spin move for a dunk, beautiful. But defense, man, that is where the men are made. I love defense so freaking much, dude, and I am so excited for this defense to hit somebody in the mouth and then let you know about it, man. I'm seriously so jacked up for this.
Michael Terrell, welcome back, by the way. Hafley said Hafley is known to make defensive changes after the QB audibles out of the first look.
Okay, I like that.
When you talk about attitude and confidence being that word, you kind of toe the line between confident and cocky.
Mm-hmm.
My thing with that, and it's something that Hafley has referenced, and when it comes to confidence like that, the thing that I come back to is the preparation. Yes. With Hafley being a guy who, obviously, when a guy like Richard Sherman says he's known for his preparation, he talks about his preparation, that is where you derive confidence from. You can talk about any high-performing person. You talk about Steph Curry, about like the amount of preparation he puts. It's good to have you back, Michael. And he talks about the amount of preparation he talks, where he's shooting thousands of shots every single week to take 10 or 15 in a game. And you hear phrases like you sink to the level of your training. Things like that. All of those preparation type quotes, applications, examples, all of that, that's where guys derive their confidence from. Mm-hmm. If you play with confidence, knowing that you have prepared for the game you're about to play, all you have to do is rely on your instincts because you put work in on everything that you're going to see. Yeah. And then you trust your preparation, and that makes you play with confidence, and you're not playing to react. You are playing that, you are confident that you know what the other team is going to do or what they are trying to do. And you derive confidence from that preparation. So preparation and confidence with Hafley are going to go hand in hand for me.
Yeah, they're definitely synonyms. My second one is, now I know that you're going to talk about LVN a little bit more, and I do think that Gary and LVN are going to have some great years. I think that he's going to have them prepared. He's going to have them in situations where they can succeed. They can use their athleticism and absolutely just go get quarterbacks and running backs. And dare I say, they run a 180-pound wide receiver at one of these men that are going to rip their face off. Please do that. But the person that I think that'll make the biggest jump this year, I almost want to make a bold prediction because I think that he could be an all-pro. I think Quay Walker is going to freaking destroy in this system, dude.
I like it.
I really do.
I like it.
He can rush the passer. We already seen it. Mm-hmm. He can come off the edge. He can blitz inside. He can defend a run. He could drop back in coverage. I mean, this guy literally does everything, and he's huge, and he's fast, and he does it all. And now you're going to have a guy,
And
like
he
you were
tackles
just
well.
talking about, right? That's going to have him ready for these moments. Dude, my God. I'm so excited. And I really think Quay Walker has all-pro potential.
I agree.
So,
I mean, I went as far as to say that in the early parts of last season that I thought he was their best defender.
and at moments, I agree that he was. But oh man, if I just since the hire, right? And he said he talked to play a 4-man front. I just been dreaming up all these scenarios of who we're gonna put on the line, and imagine like remember I always talk about what Baltimore used to do, right?
Mhm.
Where they would put like 4 guys covering 2 offensive linemen, and the offensive linemen are just like, I guess I'll take this one. I'm not really sure. I don't know if he's coming or not. And then they would just blitz all 4 through one gap. And the offensive line's just scrambling like, what the hell?
Yeah, right. What do we do?
And then you have a contained blitz on the other side, so the quarterback can't get out. And I mean, boy, I tell you what, we about to cook. I'm really, really excited since Ben Johnson's coming back. This is a little sidebar. Since Ben Johnson's coming back to the Lions, and I think that he's a brilliant offensive coordinator, the matchup between Ben Johnson and Jeff Hafley is gonna be must-watch TV. Talk about 2 guys that are just gonna cook.
Dude, could you imagine them being like the opening matchup of the season next year?
I can see
Like
that.
Sunday night primetime, them being the first Sunday night game.
I honestly could see that. You might
Absolutely.
be cooking. NFL, if you're watching, this is a good idea.
Yeah, listen to us, NFL.
you could do it in Detroit. It doesn't matter to me. We whooping that ass next year.
Michael said, remember, though, we have another linebacker that played for Hafley. I do remember that because when I talked to Elijah Jones yesterday, he brought it up. Isaiah McDuffie played at Boston College in that system.
And he was second team all ACC, I believe. Because he was third in the nation in tackles, or third in the ACC maybe, with 107. So really, Hafley got him drafted by the Packers.
That's totally fair.
So if you think about it.
You have anything else on your expectations?
No, I just wrote down the 2 because if I write down any more, dude, my head might explode. I'm so excited.
All right. So my number 1, these aren't in any specific order, but these are just 2 expectations that I have, is I underlined this 5 times. Versatile safeties will be brought in.
Yep.
And it could be free agency. It could be the draft. It could be keeping Savage, but keeping or bringing a guy in who can be the star position will be brought in. A guy who, like you said, can float between safety and linebacker. I'm going to throw out a super early name, and I could easily see this guy wanting to be retained by his new head coach because he's a similar type of player. But if there's any way, shape, or form that the Packers could go get a guy like Jabril Peppers, I would be extremely interested in that.
Okay. I think Jabril would be a good fit.
And then, like I said, groom Anthony Johnson Jr. because he is not shy of contact.
No.
And he's got safety experience. So Hafley gets his hands on Anthony Johnson Jr. as a potential DB coach. I love that potential thought of what he could grow into under Hafley in a couple of years.
You want to read this?
Michael asked on thoughts of trading for Buda Baker.
You go first. Usually I answer first, but
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it too. Yeah.
Like if they do it, I'll be excited because he obviously brings the name recognition.
Right.
I don't know. I guess my preference just lies on, somebody younger, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't think Buda Baker's old. Like, I can look him up quick.
What is he, 28, 29 maybe? 27 maybe? He's 27 to 29. He's got to be in that range, right?
Buda Baker is 28. Good call.
28, okay. So, I'd be okay with it. Experience, he's a good
Jabril
player.
Peppers is also 28, so I guess I just contradicted myself, but
okay. Shit. Let's get Jabril Peppers and Buda Baker. How about that?
Man.
How about that? Buda Baker could be the single high. He's really good at single high coverage. So
yeah, Darnell Savage can fuck off.
Respectfully,
of course.
I love Darnell, but if we can replace Darnell with Buda Baker, I think I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
I
just
think
bring up
Michael's on
Jabril
board with
Peppers
that.
because he was a linebacker in college that converted to safety in the NFL. So
Right.
that's why I bring that up as a hybrid guy.
Yep.
Man. Michael said, I'd love to see Packers go after Sidney Brown from the Eagles. He played rover a lot at safety at Illinois. I liked him in the draft. I actually liked him at Illinois, to be honest with you. I'll throw this out there. He did get cooked a couple times late in the season, and that could be because of the defensive coordination late in the season by the Eagles was completely garbage and trash all at the same time.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a second-year player, so I don't know what the Eagles are going to be like. No, we're not going to keep him.
Yeah, especially a team that has a lot of older players, and they're going to be going through a lot of changes in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Brandon Graham. I mean, you got Fletcher Cox.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got a bunch of guys in the O-line. I mean, that team is tinkering with, and they think they paid their quarterback, and they think they have an elite quarterback, and they're about to find out real quick that they don't.
Let me tell you this: the Eagles scouts that I saw this week spent a lot of time watching Michael Penix Jr.
Did they really?
Mm-hmm. Day one, the dude was fucking on the ground with a camera, like watching, like and filming everything he did.
Interesting.
So I don't know if maybe they're thinking draft and stash Michael Penix Jr., but they were watching him closely.
Huh. That's noteworthy. I like that.
All right. So getting back to my second expectation.
Yeah.
The Packers will draft a defensive lineman with one of their first 5 picks, maybe 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And, I think I've been pretty vocal on liking both Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden. And we saw TJ take a really big step forward, and Kenny Clark is obviously in the Pro Bowl. But I think when it comes to building depth like they have at a position like wide receiver, I do think the Packers will probably look to bring in a potentially more high-profile defensive lineman. So I think they will invest one of their top 5 picks in a defensive lineman.
Wow, you know my stance on controlling the line of scrimmage. So I will never ever. You could take this to the bank, man. I will never disagree with drafting a player on the D line or O line. I will never disagree with that. Because if you do not win that line of scrimmage, you are not winning that football game. I don't give a shit who your quarterback is. It better be Tom Brady with some rocket boosters on his feet or something. Because if he's getting rushed all game and he can't see his receivers, or a defense you can't get pressure on their quarterback or stop their run, you're done.
The 49ers did it to the Packers. They had 4 down linemen that could get pressure by themselves, and it gave the 49ers the luxury of dropping 7 guys into coverage. I want that for the Packers.
You can go back. Look at the Buccaneers when they won the title, when they came in Lambeau. They were rushing 4. Look at
getting pressure.
You can go back to – let's go back to the Giants teams that were beating the Patriots in the Super Bowls and beating us in the playoffs. They were rushing 4. Osi Umenyiora and Michael Strahan and is it Justin Tuck? Justin Tuck? I don't want to say Tucker. I don't want to say Tucker. It was Justin Tuck. They were rushing 4 back then too, and they were getting home. So having that for your defense, rushing 4 and dropping 7 back is just such a luxury.
Michael said 3rd round, I like LSU tackle Mason Smith. Dude was a beast against the Badgers in the bowl game. James said hopefully Hafley has a few new position coaches. Recall Matt LaFleur said they had no options to replace Barry. Doesn't that mean remaining coaches can't be defensive coordinators? I think that means that the remaining coaches didn't have defensive coordinators, like guys that they didn't feel comfortable to call defenses because they didn't have experience doing so. I don't think that necessarily means that even though Matt LaFleur told guys that they're able to go look for other opportunities, that they won't bring any of those guys back. I just think they're giving out potential opportunities for Hafley to bring guys in. And like I said, I could see Matt LaFleur just going to Goody and be like, you and Hafley, pick who you want. Because like I said, Hafley with that head coaching experience has experience hiring and firing guys. He's obviously worked a shit ton of places, so he's got connections with guys and can maybe, pick pieces from here and there from his days in San Francisco and Cleveland and Tampa Bay and Boston
Ohio State.
Ohio State, and be able to bring in a collective of guys that is a new coaching staff. Michael brought up don't leave out Johnny Newton. I know I'm showing my Illini fandom, and I am on board with it.
He's a good player. He's a good player.
He's a game changer at times.
He was whooping the Badgers' ass in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, was that Furtney? Was he beating Michael Furtney? I don't remember.
It looked like he was kind of beating anybody he lined up across.
Yeah, he was kicking their ass.
Yeah, so
he's
I would totally be on board with the Packers bringing in Johnny Newton. Totally on board.
I agree with that as well.
So you want to get into some changes that we hope to see. I will read Bryant's first.
Okay.
Bryant said, change the attitude. I want them to walk on the field believing they are the best unit on the field of the two teams.
I like it.
I like it too. Okay. What's your hope that you see to change?
All right. So for a long time, the national media, rival fans, and even some of our own Green Bay Packer fans have really clowned the Packers defense. And something that I really hope changes is the outlook on this defense. You can get those guys in the locker room to believe. I think the real mega change that could really show your effect is if you get people on the outside talking about you.
Like that outside perception?
Yeah, okay, Packers got a defense now. They found their quarterback last year. They got a defense now. Like things are getting interesting up in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Goody talked about it's about winning a championship. And what is the oldest quote in the book, Tyler?
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships, buddy. Let's go get one.
All right, you ready? You're gonna love this, dude.
Let's get it.
The change that I hope to see is adaptation.
Okay, I'm with it.
I hope to see the Packers be able to adjust to teams who run the ball well and to teams who pass the ball well, even if it means that they allow a little bit of the opposite, but to take away the opponent's strengths. I won't be mad if the Packers end up 8th to 10th in rushing yards and passing yards if they're performing well week to week. If they force a team like the Bears, for example, who over the last couple of years have been a really good running team, if they shut down the Bears' run game and they pass for 250 yards, but they also throw 2 interceptions, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this multiple times. I do not give a shit about yards.
Yeah.
When it comes to points, takeaways, momentum, things like that. So if the Packers aren't, like number 1 in pass defense or number 1 in run defense or top 5 in both, whatever your expectations may be for a new defensive coordinator, I don't care about the yards. If you are taking away your opponent's strengths and winning football games, I do not give a singular shit about yards. So adapting to your opponent's strengths and making them play outside their comfort zone, adaptation is the biggest change that I hope to see.
I like it. I think we all have some good changes, some good things to expect. Truthfully, like I said in the beginning of the episode, man, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we don't even know about, and we're going to have to wait and see approach. The draft is definitely going to get way more interesting now.
Oh yeah.
As these pieces kind of fall into place, we'll get more clarity into what's going to happen up in Green Bay. But training camp's definitely going to be interesting. The season's going to be interesting, but I think Jeff overall, and how classic was it that immediately when it was announced that half of the people were like, "Who?" and the other half were like, "What the hell? Classic Packers." Like, maybe wait a sec.
Listen, my thoughts on that is because he wasn't one of the prominently interviewed guys. Whereas if he was like the second or third guy that they interviewed, they'd be like, "Oh, okay," because they've already been envisioning it. Because the Packers hired a guy that wasn't like widely reported that they even interviewed. Yeah. I think that's what gave people negative feelings because they didn't already know that he was a candidate.
But like, it's the same way in the draft, right? All these, sorry, I'm going to say it. A lot of people are sheep, okay? And you got these people on NFL Network, ESPN, and all these other networks that are like, this is my first round projection. And all these fans that don't put in the work and research these guys, they see a name. So they get attached to that name. Okay. And then they go to this website and they see this name. So then you're starting to see some consistency between 1, 2, maybe 3 different names. And when it's not that guy, everybody freaking freaks out. Do you guys realize how wrong these guys are?
Most of the time, at least half of the time.
I love sports. You want to know why? I can give my opinion and think that I'm right, and you can't dispute some of it. I can say this guy's going to fit in perfectly with the Green Bay Packers. And you know what? If he doesn't get drafted by the Packers, my opinion could still stand.
Yep. And this is, let me throw this out there too, is people doing mock drafts. The mock draft that you do on Pro Football Network is not going to be any sort of remotely close to how the actual NFL draft goes.
Not even close.
So if you're like, oh, I've been drafting, let's say Joe Alt. He's going to be a top 10 pick at tackle. Oh, I've been drafting Joe Alt at 25. He's been falling to be in mock drafts. Stop doing that. And we're going to do mock draft shows. But it's going to be to talk about what different things can happen in a draft because nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody saw the Lions drafting Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12 last year.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Nobody saw him drafting Jack Campbell in the first round.
Exactly. So teams are going to do what they want to do, not what you think they're going to do, not what the internet thinks they're going to do, and not what other analysts tell you they think they're going to do. That's why we are going to cover probably 10 tackles, 7 guards / centers. We'll probably do 10 to 15 running backs, probably 10 linebackers, 10 safeties, and 10 cornerbacks, and then do mock drafts where now that over the last 4 weeks of March and April that we've talked about 200 players, now we're looking at 10 to 12 that we think actually end up on the Packers based on, like we said, doing these mock drafts. But when I say that we are going to do mock drafts, we know that this isn't how they're going to turn out.
Yeah.
But we'll explore different things like if the Packers trade up, what it would cost to trade up, if they drafted defense in the first round, if they drafted offense in the first round, if they drafted a lineman versus a running back versus a defensive lineman versus a corner versus a safety, if they were to trade for guys, if they were to sign guys in free agents. There are so many variables that it does not pay to set your mind on one player for the first round or one candidate for defensive coordinator, that if it doesn't happen, you're going to lose your mind because it's not the guy you've been envisioning in the role or in the pick for the last 2 months.
I feel like I should have been able to edit a chef hat on you right there because you were cooking, dude. You were literally just cooking right there. I love that. That was awesome. Good job. But I agree with everything you said. Nobody really knows. It's like
just
betting.
Game adaptation is the change that I hope to see.
Yeah.
Apply it to yourself.
Yeah. Everybody has their own opinion on things. And, if you still don't like the hire, I mean, that's fine. If you're a wait and see kind of person, that's fine too. I am in some certain areas as well. But just know that I think this is going to be a positive move. I don't think that there's any negativity that could be looked at during this move. I think this is going to be a really big positive for this franchise. And if last offseason you thought it was doomsday, and we were going back to the 80s, you are very wrong. What's up?
The myth and the legend and Jake.
And Jake? Oh, wow. Okay. All right, good night. See you later.
He said you're a legend too. Settle down.
I know.
But and to your point, is it goes along with what we've talked about in the stance that we have as a show, is taking the optimistic approach first. And if things don't go ideally, then A, looking for positive takeaways, and B, looking for the opportunities to grow from them, as opposed to taking the pessimistic approach, calling yourself quote unquote realistic, and then waiting for something good to happen to save your shitty attitude.
I agreed.
That is a horrible fucking way to go through life, in my opinion.
Yeah, don't do that.
To just sit and be negative and to be like, oh, I'd rather protect myself from being disappointed. train yourself to learn how to handle adversity, like Jeff Hafley said, instead of trying to just constantly have a shitty attitude and waiting for something good to happen to save your mentality.
I'm going to tell you right now, those people who have that attitude, they're probably not fun in life because they're already scared. They're scared of life. They're scared of experiencing things. They're scared of trying new things. Those people suck overall in general. Don't suck, okay? Be awesome. Be adaptive yourself.
Quote of the day. Quote of the day. Don't suck. Be awesome.
Don't suck. I mean, my God. It's okay to try new things. It's okay to be open. It's okay to fail.
It's okay.
Everybody fails.
It's okay to hope that things are going to work out in the best way.
But you know what? If you go in there and you give it your best shot, man, that's all you can ask for. And it sounds super cliche. And I know that you probably said that to your son or your daughters at a certain point in your life, but it's so true. Most of the things that you say to your kids are true, man. Give it your best shot. If you give me like I tell my kids all the time, I don't have 10 kids. I coach a basketball team. If you go in there and you tell me that you're giving me everything that you got, I will never be mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me that you tried to box out with every ounce of those 80 pounds in your body, I'm not going to be mad at you. I just want you to try. If you fail, that's okay. We're going to figure it out from there. But you need a baseline. Don't suck. Don't be afraid to try new things. I had to give that speech. It felt right.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to be optimistic, and then just learn to roll with it if things don't work out the ideal way that you think you want them to.
Agreed.
All righty. We will be back, not next week, but the week after with another show. We're going to take a week off next Friday. Some of us aren't available next week, so we're just going to take a week off and just cool a little bit with a little bit of quiet time as we get into our draft prep and positions of need and things like that. And Taylor said, like my parents taught me, as long as you absolutely try and give your best. And that's what people want out of players, out of themselves. Absolutely. So yeah, we're gonna be diving head first into draft prep in these coming weeks, and then when we get into March, we'll be covering positions that we think the Packers have positions of need, and then we get into April, and then it's mock draft time, and then it's the draft. So we'll definitely be back for that. We're gonna have some free agency stuff coming up in between there as well. So we'll be back in the next couple of weeks, just not next week, and we'll be back on the 16th. So we'll see you guys then, and then Jake and I will also be back on Wednesday to talk about the Bucs and the Badgers. So we'll see you then.